right, so let me say hello and welcome to another weekly edition of Stock Market Mutterings. This is for the week that begins on the 23rd of September. I come to you today, my friends, a bit grizzled, a bit burnt to a crisp, but yet oh so much wiser than I was last week. And that's all that matters, right? As always, this is where I'll try to take a grope in the murkiness, share with you my thoughts and feelings about the market, where I see this going, some trade setups, things I like, things I don't like, things to watch out for. And I do hope that helps you make a little bit of money. So before I get started, as always, if you need help with your personal trading, take a moment, visit thelincolnlist.com. We have a live trade room, live trade feed, and a free DVD. So no matter what educational level you're trying to get from this market, you will find it at the Lincoln List. So where do we start here? Let's talk about the Fed, because this week was the week all eyes were going to be on the Fed. What kind of rate cut were we getting? 25 basis points? Were they going to surprise us with 50? Now, the issue that we were having, I shouldn't say the word issue, but the things I was observing, let's try to use that one, is that we have this pattern, it seems like, right before the Fed, the market just wants to go blast off. Like it just wants to go bonsai right into highs. And that's kind of what we did here again. We started flirting around with all-time highs. We were on this 6 to 7 day green run where the market was just green and just melting away and just running right up into the Fed. Now, once the Fed made its announcement of the 25 basis point cut, I felt, look, that's already priced into the market. That's the reason that the market was going up in the first place. That's already priced in, unless there was a surprise. There was no reason, I felt, but that doesn't mean just because I say there's no reason. The market sometimes moves because of no reason. But I had just felt, look, it's probably going to go lower because there were no surprises. And that's exactly what happened. In fact, it started to get quite aggressive there. The market was down about 200, 250 points. So I'm like, okay, we're going to do what we did the last couple of times and really have a pretty stout pullback from this. Well, they start jawboning about QE. And I'm like, Q freaking E? Really? At all-time highs in the history of the planet world ever? You're cutting rates and now you're going to do QE? What the hell? All right. Well, the market loved it. They started eating that stuff up with the spoon, huh? And man, it just retraced all of it and went green. Now, the next day, what we're experiencing here, why I'm talking about this is because this is what we're seeing now, is that it went green there, but you get up there around Thursday, and then it just fades. It can't build on that. So it gets rejected on Wednesday, gets rejected on Thursday. You come into Friday, it can't gain any traction, and you start breaking down finally on Friday. So you've been hanging around these all-time highs. If you look here at the SPY, you've basically been there for over a week, and it's just constantly been trying to get through that, and it just gets rejected, and finally on Friday, maybe it's going into the weekend, maybe it's other kind of headline news, you start pulling back. I feel that this market should, in fact, pull back down to these moving averages, which is the 50 moving average, like 294, maybe even see the lower. That doesn't necessarily mean that's going to happen. You know, it's important for me to trade what I see because a lot of the thoughts that I have are just like most people's thoughts. I can't predict the future and they're shit. So you just have to kind of deal with what's in front of you. You feel, though, by the way the action was playing out over the last couple of days, that this market really does want to press lower. That's what it wants to do. But, you know, like I said, man, it has more than 9 lives. It keeps finding a way back. So where we go, I think we're going to test down in there. I'm not saying market crash, but I say maybe we get down to that 10-20 moving average, 20-50 moving average, 20 and the 50 moving average, which is sitting at 294. Let's see if that's the first move we start seeing. It's not that far out. 1 or 2 days of selling or one really strong down open or something like that can get us to that level, which is basically 294, 295. Now, if you start to progress lower than that, we could start talking about the 280s, which is the lower area where there was a lot of support going into over the last month when we had the initial correction there in August. So if it gets under that, maybe there's something you can look back, like a December scenario where it gets really aggressive. But other than that, I would just continue to keep your eye on the prize and just see if we press down there. Now, there's been a lot of stocks here. The last time I didn't do a market mutterings last week because I was traveling, but the stock I left you with the last time prior to that was the almighty ROKU. I said, you know what, guys, we have got to do a short on this. Now, I say that because when I say you guys, us guys, I was kind of hoping that maybe you guys did, because I did not. I totally missed this. I had some scalps on it, of course. I had a couple of options I did on it. I actually sold some calls. Yeah, I picked up a little bit, but boy, when something gets sauced for about $70 a share over a couple of weeks, it's like, oh man, I knew this was coming. I knew it. And see, the thing is about this is it's not a penny stock. It's not a low floater. It's not a pump and dump. So when you see a bigger name stock like this or a Momo name like this just going off the hook, it's pretty obvious what's going to happen. It's a mess now. I mean, there's going to be a lot of people now looking at the other way, wanting to know, is this a buy? At some point, you're probably going to get a long out of this. But the way this is behaving, just dropping 10, 20 bucks a day, you got to be real freaking careful about trying to catch that falling knife. It's extremely volatile right now. So wait for the setup. There's a little bit of room. As far as, is it going to go back to what it was? Is this going to go back to the 170s? I don't think so. I think this is just the beginning for Roku. Maybe you see a 1 week rip. I mean, this is what normally happens with these type of stocks. If you go back, you look at Beyond, or you go back and look at some of the older ones, the MCPs. And those were, I think, even worse than Roku. But you go back and you look at some of those. They all have a sort of a pattern they do over and over again. And that is they'll have this initial flush. And it's not going to go straight down. They're going to be a lot of people, like I said, going to try to dip by this. It'll probably get upgraded and all that good stuff. So maybe you get one more press up towards 120. And then I'd really take a look at the longer term swing short on this. I think this thing can settle in somewhere around the 70s and 80s. If you're a perma bull on that, I know those words really hurt, but I think that's something that you might be able to see here. Definitely sub 100s. But again, from my perspective here, I have to see how it's going to play out Monday because I don't know. I mean, it could go up 10. It could go down 10. I don't know. But I'll know when I see it, but I can't tell you what that's going to be. But watch this one. Now, this takes me to the other one that I did talk about at the same time, which I also didn't short. I love talking about stuff and not doing it. That's what we do as traders, right? I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that and this and that and that. And then you do like, oh, I only did one of the 30 things that I talked about. Welcome to our world. That's what we do, right? Shop. Now, there's still room in Shop. It hasn't been Roku'd yet. It's not as beat down as Roku. I've got a line drawn here. This is a red line. Sorry for the mess at the bottom of the chart on the daily. Watch this 311 going forward. 311. Remember the band 311? Never mind. I got off topic there. 311. Watch 311. If that goes, you're probably going to see a more aggressive flush in this thing. Another stock here. I mean, here's the thing about Shop and Roku, which I'm sure you already know, but here's what I'm talking about. Why my thoughts and theories go into this is because even with this humongous pullback that you have in Roku, you realize that stock is still up 230% or something like 220, 230%, even with this pullback. Shop's still up like 180% still for the year. So it's not like these things don't have a lot to go. I mean, we're not talking about them becoming bearish. We're just talking about normal corrections in these things, taking a 50%, 60%, and they'd still be super. I mean, if you lose another 100% out of Roku, it'd still finish the year over 100%, right? It would still be like one of the most bullish stocks all year long if it lost it like half of its value from right here where it sits. I mean, that's how huge some of these moves were. So kind of watch that one there too. Now, a lot of these other ones that we did talk about, I'm just going to go through them briefly because, again, they might be setting up. There's no numbers right now to look for on these. It's just some ideas I'm scratching the surface with. But one of the things that we saw here, starting with Shop, you go back and you look at some of these ones we've been talking about for a long time on this list, these little thin betas, we like to call them. OKTA, OKTA. I'm not going to post up all of these charts right now, but you got OKTA. Twilio, you could put Twilio in there. TTD, which I have here on the screen, WDAY, those kind. Who else is on this list? TTWO. So you have Twilio and TTWO. I already mentioned Shop. Yeah, those kind right there. those things went up damn near every day at the beginning of the year up until the summer. And PAYC, PAYC is another one to put on your list. These things have gone up, and they got whacked about a week ago, especially this PAYC. Just totally got smoked. I mean, one day they just annihilated these stocks, and they made a little bit of a bounce, and they're kind of just sitting there. Watch and see if they've already made a bounce. So if you were trying to play the bounce, you might have missed it. We'll have to see how next week plays out. But these things, like I said, they got obliterated. And if they make a second cycle lower, you might see a smaller kind of ROKU style move. So when you're talking about PAYC, for example, it started out the day running into the 222s and ends up fading down to 215. I mean, we're talking maddening ranges here. TTD, the same thing. I had that up there. Starts out relatively strong. These things were trying to put in a solid bounce, and then it reverses from 213 down to 202. So these things lost $5 to $10 plus on their reversals. And it's not the first time they've done it. They're continually rolling over. And the reason that I had TTD up here is it's doing everything it can to fight off its 200-day moving average. So if that goes, this lower area, which is today's low around 203, I would expect you start to see a lot more pressure in these names. So as we go forward, we'll first take a look at ROKU. I think you can find a bounce play in that. You can either short this thing on the bounces that it has, or if you have intraday structure where you have some higher lows or some sort of solid pattern building where you can judge your risk or get your risk to a good level and the risk to reward is favorable, you might see a good knee-jerk dead bounce of $10, $13. I mean, they just don't go straight down. They're going to kick and scream the whole way down, and bulls are going to hold on to it for dear life. On a smaller note, watch SHOP, TTD, OKTA. Man, you really want to put NVIDIA. SHOP, TTD, OKTA, Twilio, PAYC, WDAY. Those. Watch those, because if they cycle lower than where they were this week, take this week's low, if they go under this week's low and the market starts to press down towards those areas, these things got a lot of room. I mean, all of those are up big for the year. They got a lot of room to fall to put some money in your pocket for some short-term trades. Yes, they'll bounce, but pay attention to those. Now, we obviously could get a bounce in all of those names. We're going to have to see how things open up, see if there's any news over the weekend. But I'm kind of expecting a little bit of fade. Will I be right? I don't know. Don't care, though, because I'll figure it out when it happens. That's how I do it. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching this week's Market Mutterings. Any questions, concerns, input, send it to support@lincolnlist.com. Until next week, thanks for watching the video and trade well.